I see a lot of good speakers that has come before me and good insight. And hopefully my presentation also give you a little bit insight. Because I'm not going to talk about the IT law in Japan, because obviously I'm not a Japanese. But also I'm not going to give you more like insight about the data protection in the global. Some of them will be a discussing topic today, but mostly my content is about comparative situation between Indonesia and also in the global regulation sector. Also, regarding with the IT, it's been my research from my bachelor till my doctoral degree that I finished in Jakarta like 2 years ago. Also, I have one book that I published in the last year about legal technology. So we introduce a term in Indonesia that legal technology shall be a fourth pillar of establishing a legal system. So maybe, I know in this forum, mostly you guys are an IT people, IT experts that working in the IT industry, but me, I'm kind of like a frog that lives in water, also lives in the land. So yeah, I'm a lawyer basically, but I running a law school. I have law school already established 32 years in Jakarta. So anytime you come to Jakarta, I'll be so happy if you can meet and collaborate. Also, I can invite to speak at my faculty. So my students will be happy. Also, especially for Leonid, yeah, as the hosting member. So yeah. Also, I have Hotaka Indonesia, is a manpower supply or recruitment agency company based in Indonesia, and we're expanding to Japan because I know Japan nowadays has an aging population that requires a lot of manpowers, but you know there's no one left in here. Actually, Indonesia has a lot of human nowadays, and we are trying to expand. We are trying to increasing the skill worker that in Indonesia have. Obviously, not only Japan we want, but also all over the world. But you know, everything has to be started somewhere. And we also have a law firm or consulting agency named Putranto Advisory Indonesia. So this is where the line that we can collaborate. I know most of the participants today are cybersecurity companies, and I think and I believe in Indonesia we need those kind of companies because now in Indonesia startup tech companies are really growing so fast, and in the last 5 years I've been dealing with many investment agreement, investment deals through the technology company. But yeah, now is the tech winter, so it's a bit harder than before, but I think it's gonna bounce back. Let's see where it goes. And one of the factors that require that will lead to the bounce back itself, I believe, is about the regulation. And the harder the regulation, the harder the business. But the loose regulation, the business will always be a chaos or a chaotic things. And somehow, law and IT does not come in a same vision, does not come in the same way, because in IT people, as far as I know, you correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are more finding a way to create a faster innovation. You guys want to do anything that you can do to create a better innovation, to create a better product. And you guys, maybe like in a Silicon Valley atmosphere or in the tech world, you guys are competing each other. Who can create a better one? Who can create in a faster way? Who can create a better and a faster and more this, more that? And you can, you want to try and use any data that you have. The bigger data that you have, the bigger resources that you have, you can create a better product or the faster product. As far as I know, that's what the culture, at least in the IT world. Yeah. So
I think, yeah, especially in AI today, it's like a big, security is kind of like an afterthought.
Yes.
Because innovation is mostly happening, like you want to be fast, you want to build the product, but security comes like when you get financing, when you get funding, then you start thinking, oh, we probably need to implement a better security measures.
Yes. So generally speaking, you cannot say big data if the data is not big enough. So even AI will not do anything if they also then have the data, right? And when we talk about the cybersecurity, that's where the line goes. That's where the consensus between the law and tech comes. You can go, you can innovate, but you have to be secured, you have to be protecting the consumer and so on and so on. And in Indonesia, we have the PDP law, or what we call it as a Personal Data Protection Law. The PDP law, as what we have, the privacy, the concept is right to be let alone or right to be a single forever, not going to be married, just kidding. The right to be alone, so your data is only for you, and limited access to the self, to yourself only, and it has to be secret, and you have the control over your data, and you have the intimacy or the configuration about your desire, your demand, yourself. And the scope of the privacy is somehow it's territorial, bodily privacy, communication privacy, and data information policy. This is the general concept of the privacy. And talking about the personal data or privacy, we have to believe that protection of personal data is a human rights. It's not just something that you have to fight. No, it's actually given. It's like the right to live in the world where for example, like it's the basic rights of human being. You can eat, you can live, you can speak, you can talk to other people. It's like basic human right. But now like if we go back to the 10 years ago or 20 years ago, personal data is like nothing, man. It's like worthless. I live in the era where our personal data becomes like a packaging of a certain food, man. So in Indonesia back then, like 10 years ago, there's a paper of our data from a certain regional government body, and our data become a packaging of a fried banana or something. So it's crazy, it's worthless. Even at the time where the Friendster, you guys playing Friendster before Facebook? Come on, like you guys are older than me, I think. So Friendster before Facebook or the Facebook era, we even disclose all of our personal information there, and we are so proud to display all of our data there. But nowadays, the Gen Z, the Generation Alpha generation, even they post only one post in the Instagram or 2 posts in the Instagram. But the rest of it, they create a second account, third account to be themselves. So anytime if the recruiter wants to do the background check on the Gen Z for them to work to us, we cannot find anything in their account, in the social media account, because they don't post anything to their first account. They only post on the second and third account. So the awareness to protect their data as a Gen Z, as a generation, as the Alpha generation, is so much better than us in the millennials or in the other, compared to other generation, like from the Gen X, I assume in here, Gen X or baby boomers. Anyone? No one. So yeah. Protection of personal data nowadays considered as a human rights according to the UNDHR, ICCPR, and a lot of regional laws regulated in the many countries. And the terms that we use to refer as a living individual is a personal data, or the CCPA in the California, US as personal information. If we compare also the territorial scope, if we use the GDPR, GDPR is the basic regulation of the personal data applied in the EU, right? Only applied in the EU and extraterritorial scope. And about the GDPR, or General Data Protection Regulation, there are some key updates in an application in 2025. So actually, they expanded scope and definition to a broader one, which is the GDPR now explicitly includes biometric data, genetic information, location data, and online identifiers as personal data. So they're already adjusting their definition into this current situation. Also, they extend the jurisdiction. Non-EU companies processing data of EU residents are subject to GDPR compliance, regardless the company's location. So for example, if your company is in Japan and you're processing data of EU residents, because your website is applied to all over the world, right? You also, the GDPR also applied to what you did according to the GDPR. And also they enhance enforcement and penalties. Now the GDPR have intensified with significant fines imposed on major corporations. For instance, in January 2025, Meta was fined 1.2 billion euro for unlawful data transfer between the EU and the US. So the GDPR is now getting worked so hard to apply the regulation and extend the penalties and so on. And also accountability of EU institutions like the General Court fined the European Commission for breaching its own data protection laws, highlighting that even EU institutions are accountable under GDPR. So there was a case where their own body, their own European Commission, is breaching their data protection laws. And the General Court of the EU has also sanctioned that situation. So they are not cherry picking to those who can be fined and not. And also nowadays they regulate the emerging technologies such as AI and machine learning. There are some new guidelines that have been introduced to the people. Also some predictive surveillance concern where the algorithms in predictive travel surveillance has raised privacy issues. They also put some concerns on those kind of technologies, and also the cross-border data transfer, which is getting stricter nowadays. And how about the Indonesia situation now? Yes, we already have the basic statement on our constitution, UUD 45, we call it the Indonesian Constitution, year of 1945. That's the year after Japanese has invaded our country back then, and then we declared our independency around 17 August 1945, and then we have the 1945 Constitution of Indonesia, Article 28, where every person shall be entitled to protection of his own person, family honor, dignity, and prosperity under his control. This is one of the statements since 1945 that can be used to protect our personal data in the digital world. Now, we have three aspects. That's why the protection of data is more important, and the cybersecurity plays important role in this sector, because many cases of cybersecurity breaching in Indonesia. That's why I'm telling you this, because the opportunity to give cybersecurity services to Indonesian market is kind of huge, and there are still low supply on the experts living in Indonesia. So I think if we can find a silver lining on this, I mean, like it's gonna be good. Because philosophically speaking, we have a Pancasila as an ideology. Pancasila is like the 5 principles that living in Indonesian people that's shaping how our nation works. Also, sociologically aspect, we need to be informed society. We have to be an informed society. What do you mean by informed society? Because like there are not so many things that or our society sometimes does not get a proper information on what's the rights, on what's the obligation, on what's the sanction, and so on and so on. So it's important to be an informed society sociologically. And juridical aspect, there are some personal data protection as a law that is important to have in Indonesia. And the scope of regulation in PDP law is actually extraterritorial scope. So we can apply the law not only in Indonesia, but also outside. So if your application processing Indonesian data, also the same principle like EU, the Indonesian data protection law also applies. So if you do something wrong on the data protection law in Indonesia, technically speaking, our police officers, our data protection body can sue you or something like that. So basically PDP and the GDPR sharing the same values, sharing the same principles. There are several principles in processing personal data, such as lawfulness, fairness, transparency, purpose of limitation, accuracy, and so on. PDP law also regulates several things like GDPR, such as data subject rights to access his personal data when requested, or obligation to notice personal data breach to supervisory authority. Both GDPR and PDP also regulate about DPO. DPO is a data protection officers. So in Indonesia, there is an opportunity working as a DPO or CDPO, Chief Data Protection Officer. Since it's been obligatory or a compulsory job that a digital company should provide. But the problem is, who legitimate the job? Who validate that Yuri is a CDPO, or Leon is a CDPO, or Ramos is a CDPO? Who validate that? Technically speaking, Indonesian government should establish a data protection body. But up until now, it's not yet happening. Even though the law has been published since 2 years ago. Yeah, that's the challenge. But also, it's an opportunity where the law does say A and the reality says B, you can do C. What it means, you can do C. As long as the law does not forbid what you did, it means you are allowed to do so. That's the legal doctrines applies in these matters. Because there is no applicable laws that as a CDPO, you have to be certified under this regulation. There's no regulation saying that. So any one of you, please come to Indonesia, be the CDPO of the digital companies. I mean, like it's a huge opportunity. But there are some issues about enforcement by DPO based on practice in EU. There are some potential issues under funding and lack of staff because this issue is kind of new. This issue is kind of new. So the expert supplies are low, but also I think it's an opportunity. The need for additional tools for supervision, large number of complaints, of course. The need to raise awareness, access to data, mistrust, misunderstanding, skepticism that happening in our society, and so on. Also, the independency supervisory authority is not yet established now. So, yeah, we're still waiting. If we compare to the 4 countries in here, this is the comparative study. where the sector are private and some of them are public and private, like in Philippines and Indonesia. Also in Philippines, there is an explicit independent statement, while the others 3 countries in the Southeast Asia does not state otherwise. And the appointment of the body, if Indonesia is a president that has to appoint the supervisory authority. But the others are just like a ministry is enough. And both these 4 countries have their own laws and they have their own name. Some issues that we have is the independency, of course, and the duties and the function also not yet clear nowadays. So yeah, Indonesia is still growing, especially in this situation. So in this conference, what I want to highlight is about what we have to be aware with this situation as a business sector, as a cybersecurity service provider, as lawyers, as entrepreneurs. So first, that the PDP law applies extraterritorially. So no matter you hide, as long as you are still living in this world, the law is still applied. But if you're like kind of Elon Musk, you can live in Mars or Moon, the law does not apply, man. Like, be chill. But if you are still in Japan, we can still sue you if you did something wrong. And pay attention to the principles and rights of data subject. So the rights and the obligation according to the PDP, as like the GDPR. Also, you have to pay attention about the processing data, about the transparency, and so on. Implement obligation controller and or processor personal data. So the one who controls the data and the one who processes the data is kind of different parties, but also can be the same parties. For example, like you have the websites of selling like e-commerce stuff, e-commerce website, and this e-commerce website collecting all the members, all the users, but the data that you collect is not processed by you. It's processed by the third parties to give you a proper insight in doing the marketing stuff for the purpose of marketing and so on. So the processor of data and the controller of data can be 2 different parties. But if you are the one who collect and you are the one who process the data, then the obligation applies all of them to your company. So just be understanding better about the difference there. The terms of transfer data, it's also important. We have to pay attention to the regulation. Data protection officer is a compulsory job that has to exist in one of your C-level. So if your company entering to Indonesian market and the government will take a look on your structure, do you have a C-level on the CDPO, as a CDPO? But if you want to provide a service like CDPO as a service, for example, so a company does not have to a full-time 9 to 5 CDPO. You can also give the service like a CDPO as a service. So anytime the companies need, they just can call you, but your name has to be listed in that company. It can be done also. Prepare to comply with the data protection policy made by government authority. So yeah, to close the presentation, I'm just telling you that there was a 2 case in Indonesia, quite big actually. The first one is Bjorka case. So there was a hacker coming from, I don't know, maybe Sweden or Russian or Chinese, I don't know. Maybe Leonid better knows the detail. So the name of the account is Bjorka.
You can run a forensic investigation.
Yes, you should. So this Bjorka guys was hacking the PT Telkom Indonesia. PT Telkom is like the biggest telecommunication operator company in Indonesia, and it was a state-owned company. So can you imagine? It's a state companies and getting hacked by uh, by a ghost named Bjorka. And this Bjorka hacked 26 million IndiHome data or Telkom data customers to the peoples, and they just sell it to the data leaks platform. 26 million Indonesian peoples, maybe it sounds like, what's the data anyway? It's not only the name, the number of transactions, the card, even the credit cards that they use to pay, the location that they live, the level of percentage on how big the internet that you use, the quota. You know, like in Indonesia, we have certain quota to use the internet, and they know the data. Oh, this family use a high internet, or this family no. So can you imagine if a marketing company have this kind of data, they can do anything, they can targeting anything. And the biggest problem is not only the hacking, but how the government handled was the worst. They thought the Bjorka is just a hoax. Bjorka was not real. The data is trash. They just say this is not important. Come on, like Indonesia have more important issues. Personal data leak is not important. It's like nothing happened. Okay, Bjorka got our data like 26 million, but our economy is fine. Our people can still find the money and work. Like there's nothing happened, Rahmat. It's okay. Be chill. That's what the government did to us. Like it was nothing. And then there was another case, not so long after the Bjorka case. It was the BSI case. BSI is the Sharia, the biggest Sharia bank in Indonesia. This BSI, Bank Syariah Indonesia, Indonesian Sharia Bank, was a result of 4 banks that getting merger. So there was a 4-bank Sharia bank getting consolidated. They merged into each other, and they become one Sharia big bank in Indonesia, named BSI Sharia Bank. Their asset was so huge, and they create a new application for their services. And this expensive Sharia bank just getting hacked. Around 15 million data. 15 million data. They have all the money in the world to create a good and secured apps, but they failed. And then the hack comes again, and you know what the BSI told to us? They're using Islamic words. They use an Islamic words to make us calm, that this storm will pass away, and there is nothing happen, and your money is going nowhere. Your money stay in your bank account. But after the BSI statement, be chill, relax, that's the tomorrow, there was a report that many people are getting loss of their money. Some of them are 10 billion rupiah. Some of them are 1 billion rupiah. Some of them just 100. But the money is gone. And the bank said, Inshallah, we will get back your money soon. I don't know. But some of them, maybe the company also returned the money. But it means they also lost some of the monies. And the hacker was giving a message to the online platform like Reddit, Indonesian Reddit. Reddit is a forbidden platform in Indonesia. So there was an alternative like Reddit. We call it like Kaskus. And there was a post in Kaskus saying that Bjorka was the perpetrator, was the actor behind the BSI. So I mean, like it's like the movie Money Heist. It's like the Money Heist movie back then. And Jakarta was like a Gotham City. So dark, the personal data was everywhere. nothing worth. So, sure, there are many cases nowadays. If you're Googling in Indonesia, cybersecurity cases in Indonesia, there were so many. Last time, before the election that we have last year, the civil data in the civil registration offices are just getting spread out. And that's the data consists of name and biometric and the day, date of their born, address, and the bank account, and so on and so on. So I think cybersecurity got more, deserve more attention nowadays, We cannot just focus on building a flashy technology or a unique design, UI, UX design that is very, very good, but also we need to give more attention to the security level on what tech that we develop. And in Indonesia specifically, people are getting more skepticism. People are not trust with how the companies, how the government create a secured application. And I think as an entrepreneur, as a provider services, this is a very, very huge opportunity for a good player to jump in. We just need 1, 2 companies that trust with what we did, but what we capable to. I think then the words are spread out. So that's all for me. Hope it gives you an insight on what you do next in this conference. And thank you so much once again for the luminary, for the invitation, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. Thank you so much.
Actually, we have some time for the questions. If
Please.
yeah.
Hello, thank you very much for the presentation. I'm just curious if you can elaborate a little bit more about how this can be applied. I mean, when someone is stealing data from another country, not Indonesia, but outside, in Japan the same, okay? It will be the same case. How does it happen? Because one thing is you have the law, which is the minimal thing, but how do the countries, they work together to say, look, I'm from Spain, I stole data from Indonesia. Who is going to come to Spain to say, come back, which I never been in Indonesia? No? What is really happening? What is the law enforcement from the police outside? If you come to Indonesia, I'm going to get you to the jail. No?
Yeah.
But how can you do that? Can you explain us a bit more? Thank you.
Of course. I can just answer?
Yeah, sure,
or
you
okay.
go, yeah.
Okay, good question. So we're gonna think about how they enforce the law, right? Cross-borderly, because the actor can be anywhere, can be in this room, right? Are you one of the Bjorka guy? So yeah, one of the ways we have it like a MLA agreement or mutual legal assistance agreement. So this mutual legal assistance agreement is an actually agreement between countries, of course it's international agreement that agrees to do certain actions in order to enforce certain laws. That's the basic premise of the agreement. For example, like Indonesia have an agreement, MLA, with Malaysia about corruption. So if there is a corruptor that already steal the government money and they run away to Malaysia, the police officers in Malaysia can catch the people that we're looking for after we issue a notice to the Malaysian police officers. Even the immigration at the Malaysian airport can stop the criminal actors. Same if we have this kind of agreement with Spain, we can catch the actor. But the problem is, if the nation or if the place where the actor ran away is not having an agreement with Indonesia, what happened, Mr. Rahmat? The answer is nothing can be happen in that time. For example, which countries that does not have mutual legal existence with Indonesia? But after I'm telling you this, don't you run away to that country. I remember all your face. What country? For example, like it's easy, Switzerland. Or even Singapore. To some of the crimes, they do not want to agree to help Indonesia. Switzerland, like corruption, money laundering, and financial crime, they do not want to engage in those crimes with Indonesia as an MLA. Or BVI countries, they do not want. Because they have different visions on what crime that they have to help other countries. And it's like a freedom of the countries. We are not saying bad or good in this conference, but yeah, that's the international problems with our criminal enforcement situation. So as a criminal actor, you should be smarter than the law. And there is a saying that crime will always walk 1,000 steps further than the law itself. And the law is always standing behind the crime. That's the saying from the Romans era, I think, and I think still applicable up to this day. So hope it answers you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much for your presentation. That's really insightful. I have a couple of questions. I guess one is regarding GDPR or data protection laws. What are some of the things that, like LLMs, for instance, it's almost like a black box. You don't know how it's processing the data. How do you build, or how do you allow LLMs or AI, in essence, comply with GDPR? As of recently, I'm just curious if you have some thoughts on that.
So practically speaking, the law will not limit what you are capable to do. So if you're an AI developers or the LLM developers, basically you can do whatever you want. But when you have to make a report on what your company do, you have to comply. And if there is a findings that you breach the process, then you will get problems after that. Or your creation infringe other people's property or other people's rights, then it becomes a problem. So if you ask me how we comply, actually there is no answer on this. You cannot comply the law before you innovate. That's what I believe, right? Up until now. How can you innovate something through software, through a technology that you don't even understand what the future looks like, what's the result looks like? But in other hand, you need this kind of techniques of data processing that you have to do. But you have, into other hand, to comply the law. I mean, like, there's so much job as an IT developer nowadays. There's so much job. And I'm not sure whether you guys are learning the GDPR as back when you are in the college, back when you are in the IT school. I don't believe that's happening nowadays. But when you work in the industry, your job is not only developing the system, but also understanding the law. And I'm sure that you cannot comply before the actions you do. But as far as I'm saying in this video, in this conference, I'm a bit scared, by the way. I'm not recommending you to do some bad stuff, of course. But you have to comply, yes. But I understand the sectoral or the culture of the IT situation now. So as long as you comply the basic one according to the countries that your company base, I mean, like, you are okay. And make sure the result of the AI that you develop, LLM that you develop, is not infringe somebody's rights, somebody's situation. For example, what the situation that can be infringed like that, you create an AI application. And this AI application collect all the paintings of Indonesian cultural heritage, for example. Like you collect Raden Saleh painting. You know Raden Saleh? One of the most famous painters from Indonesia, that the paintings itself you will not found in Indonesia. You will find these paintings of Raden Saleh in Singapore, in Paris, in everywhere. And it's so expensive. And your AI collecting all the paintings from the top painters in the world, like Raden Saleh maybe, or Monet, or Van Gogh, and everything. And then people can just create through the prompt, and then they issue the paintings. And the painting just looks like what Van Gogh did, or what the Monet did. And of course, it's an infringement. And if you do that, you as the owner has to be responsible with the law applied. If you do that in Europe, of course, EU. But mostly if you do that in the developing countries, such as Indonesia, where the law is still a baby, and the enforcers are not really understanding the situation, somehow it looks like you comply with the rules, because nothing will be happen. Because nation like Indonesia, they don't really yet understand the law. So you can do basically whatever. But if you are in the US or in EU, I mean, like, it's stricter, of course. Even the people can sue Facebook, can sue any digital applications. Like, they already understand about their rights. But in Indo, no. So you have to be understanding about where you are doing your business. In Japan, maybe people are more aware with this situation, so you gotta be maybe more cautious. Asian, I think more. It's not that strict compared to the Europe or US, yeah, because there is one understanding about this. Asian values are different with the Western values. In Western values is the place where the intellectual property born. So the concept of intellectual property, or the rights of our own creation, was born in the Western world. Why? Because in the Western world, you value what you create through your mind, and people are respecting to the creation that you have successfully created by your own self. So creation by your own self is respected enough in the Western world. But in the Asian world, that's not the concept that we have. We believe that any creation that we create in this world must coming from somewhere. And we are not allowed to claim that creation is our own creation only. It can be coming from God. It can coming from our society. It can coming from our parents, our friends. So the inspiration where become the fundamental factors in creating some invention, it has to be valued, not only the one who creates. So they more like, Asian value is more like respecting togetherness. That's what happened especially in Indonesia. So yeah, nowadays we are sharing values. I'm just saying the traditional view of this kind of things. So yeah, that's all. Hope it answered you.
Thank you.
If there's no other question, we can right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rahmat.
Yeah. Thank you so much.